Hello students, let us study thyroid gland. Now these glands are present on the either side of a neck, on the either side of the trachea, vocal cord. Those are the tissues which are present. Now here you can see the follicles of the thyroid gland. And here these follicles are arranged on the stromal tissues, and these follicle cells are in circle. There is a gap in between, there's space in between for secreting the hormone. Now these tissues on either sides, they are connected by a connective tissue which is known as isthmus. Now here these follicular cells, they secrete hormones. Now that the hormones are of two types, T4, T3, tetraiodothyronine and triiodothyronine. This tetraiodothyronine is also known as thyroxine. Now this hormone synthesis, they require iodine. Now if the quantity of iodine is less in our body, less in our food, then hypothyroidism is caused. Hypo means less thyroid production. Now if hypothyroidism is caused in children, then goiter is caused in children and adult. Goiter is swelling which is caused because the tissues, thyroid tissues, they just go on multiplying and they become large. That is goiter. Now if a pregnant woman gets less iodine, that is hypothyroidism, the child will suffer from cretinism. That is stunted growth, less IQ, the skin is rough, the child is deaf and mute. So stunted growth if hypothyroidism is caused due to deficiency of iodine. Now in adult female, the menstrual cycle will become irregular due to hypothyroidism. So these are the problems which are caused by the less iodine, less thyroid, that is hypothyroidism. These hormones, tetraiodothyronine, triiodothyronine is secreted in less quantity. Now due to some misfortune, cancerous cells can grow on this thyroid and that will lead to more secretion. Some nodules will be formed which will lead to more secretion. So that is abnormal increase in the hormone which might be caused due to this reason. So there are many problems which will be caused by this hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. So here this there might be exophthalmic goiter which is caused due to increase in amount of hormone which will lead to the enlargement of thyroid, protrusion of eyeball and increased metabolism, that is known as Graves' disease. Now this thyroid hormone, they regulate the basal metabolic rate. They regulate the metabolism of carbohydrate, metabolism of protein, metabolism of fats. So it regulates the metabolism of the food which we take in. Now it helps in synthesis of RBCs also. So these hormones, they help to maintain the amount of RBCs in our blood. Now it also helps to regulate the water and electrolyte balance The water in our body and the electrolyte, they have to be balanced. So it helps to regulate. It helps in absorption of water from the distal tubule. It helps to absorb the electrolyte from the distal tubule. So there is less wastage and the amount of electrolyte and water is maintained in our body. Now, thyrocalcitonin is the hormone which is present in the thyroid hormone, which helps to regulate the amount of calcium which is present in our body. So this hormone, thyroid gland secretes this hormone, which are very important for metabolism and regulating the RBCs and the amount of calcium in our body. Now let's study parathyroid hormones, which are released by parathyroid glands. Where are they present? Behind the thyroid glands. One pair each. Now these are two glands behind. You'll find parathyroid gland. So one gland will have one pair each. And what does it secrete? A peptide hormone. So parathyroid hormone is a peptide hormone. So what function it does? It does the function of building our bone. Now whichever bones are very old, they will resorb the calcium and the minerals from it, dissolve the minerals and calcium from it, absorb it and build new bones. So that is the function of parathyroid hormone. They maintain their circulation is dependent upon the amount of calcium ion present in the blood. They build the bone. The bone resorption takes place with the help of parathyroid hormones, that is dissolution and demineralization for building new bones. That is how a small child grows to big one because of this process. Now, maintenance of calcium ions, very important. They take the calcium from the renal tubule and it comes into the blood, and it then even the calcium from the digested food is absorbed. So absorption of calcium ions from the digested food also takes place with the help of parathyroid hormones. Now this hormones maintenance of calcium takes place with the help of thyrocalcitonin, which is released by the thyroid gland. So this thyrocalcitonin hormone released by the thyroid gland and parathyroid gland secretion, the hormones, they together maintain this calcium level. So these hormones, parathyroid hormone, are hypercalcemic hormone. They maintain the calcium level in our body, which is required for our body fluid and mainly required by our bones. Today we'll be studying thymus. Now, thymus is an endocrine gland. Where is it situated? It is situated between the two lungs. It's a lobular structure situated between two lungs. Behind the sternum. Behind this is sternum. Behind the sternum, it is situated on the ventral side of the aorta. So this is the position of this small endocrine gland, which is thymus. Now let's see what function it does. Very important functions. Now it secretes a peptide hormone which is known as thymosin. Now what does thymosin does? It helps in differentiation of T lymphocytes. Now this T lymphocyte cells, they help to develop cell mediated immunity, and it helps to promote the production of antibodies also, which develops humoral immunity. So our immunity, cell mediated or humoral immunity, depends upon thymosin, which is secreted by the thymus gland. As the person ages, this thymus is degenerated, therefore less of thymosin. So in old people, the immunity response becomes very slow. Adrenal gland. Now these glands are present on the top of the kidney. They are like crown on the kidney. We have one pair of kidney, we have one pair of adrenal gland. Now this adrenal gland has two types of tissues. One is adrenal cortex and the other is adrenal medulla. Now the underproduction of the hormones from the adrenal cortex causes Addison's disease, because due to the underproduction of the hormones, the metabolism of carbohydrate is not normal. The person becomes weak, fatigued, and it destroys the health of the person. So this is what happens in the Addison's disease. Now this adrenal gland, they release adrenaline. So when we are excited, there is more of adrenaline. Now it is adrenaline and non-adrenaline, two types of hormone. The other name for adrenaline is epinephrine. The other name for noradrenaline, norepinephrine. So these hormones are released when we are scared. We have to fight or flight. Hormones of fight or hormones of flight means you have to run away. So that hormone adrenaline, it causes increase in the heartbeat, increase in the contraction, increase in the respiration, increase in the sweating. Your pupils are dilated. So all these conditions are due to the hormone adrenaline. So here adrenaline increases the heartbeat, strength of contraction, rate of respiration, alertness, pupillary dilation, piloerection, that is your hair, they are raised because you are scared, and there's lot of sweating which is caused. Now it also, in addition, you require energy to run. So where do we get that energy from? Breakdown of glycogen. Glycogen is present in the liver, breaking release to increase in glucose. So the concentration of glucose in the blood increases. So not only glucose but lipids and proteins are also increased in the blood. Catecholamines also stimulates the breakdown of proteins and lipids. Now the adrenal cortex, the outer part is the adrenal cortex, the inner is the adrenal medulla. Now this adrenal cortex is divided into three parts: zona reticularis, zona fasciculata, zona glomerulosa. So these are the three divisions of adrenal cortex. Now this part, adrenal cortex, gives out hormones which are known as corticoids. The hormones released by adrenal cortex are known as corticoids. Now the hormones which help in carbohydrate metabolism, they are known as glucocorticoids. The important glucocorticoids in our body is cortisol, which helps. Cortisol is glucocorticoid which helps in carbohydrate metabolism, which is corticoid released by the adrenal cortex. Now Same way, it also releases a hormone which helps to regulate the balance of water and electrolyte in our body. So these corticoids are known as mineral corticoids, mineralocorticoids, which helps in regulating the electrolyte in our body. The important mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Glucocorticoids. Now it helps in gluconeogenesis, that is developing the glucose which is required for energy. It stimulates lipolysis, that is breaking of the lipids. Lysis takes place. Now proteolysis leads to formation of amino acids which are required by our body. Now, this cortisol, which is a glucocorticoid, it helps in cardiovascular system. It develops the cardiovascular system. The blood vessels is developed by cortisol. It helps in kidney functions. It has anti-inflammatory reaction. It does not allow the cells to inflate. Now, it suppresses the immune response. It does not allow the immune response to be given. Now, it also helps in production of RBCs, red blood corpuscles. Now, these are the functions of glucocorticoids, which is cortisol is one of the most important corticoid. Aldosterone is another hormone which acts mainly on the renal tubules and stimulates the reabsorption of sodium and water. It absorbs whatever required water and sodium is absorbed, and it excretes potassium and phosphate ions because that has to be excreted out, given out. It also helps in maintenance of electrolytes. Naturally, when the sodium and potassium level is maintained, the electrolyte levels are maintained. Since the electrolyte levels are maintained, the body fluid volume is also maintained. Osmotic pressure is also maintained. Blood pressure is also maintained. So it helps in regulation of the kidney functions, the renal tubules, the amount of sodium and potassium, maintaining the osmotic pressure in the tubule, maintaining the blood pressure, and it helps to maintain the body fluid volume. Now, this adrenal cortex also secretes androgenic steroids which help in development of axial hair, that is your underarm hair, pubic hair, hair around your genitals, and facial hair after your puberty. Now, pancreas. Pancreas is endocrine as well as exocrine in nature. Now, which are these cells which are endocrine in nature? It is islet of Langerhans. They are 1 to 2 millions in number. That becomes 1 to 2% of the total pancreatic tissue. Now, this islet of Langerhans, they consist of 2 types of cells, alpha cells and beta cells. Now, both these types of cells secrete different hormone which maintains the level of glucose in our body. It maintains the homeostasis of glucose in our body. Now, alpha cells, they release glucagon. They are peptide hormones. Now, these hormones, they maintain normal blood glucose level. How? By stimulating the liver cells, hepatocytes. They stimulate these cells to undergo glycogenolysis. It breaks the glucose for release of energy. Now, they also stimulate glucogenesis, that is formation of glucose. So by this process, the amount of glucose in our body increases. That leads to hypoglycemia, that is more of glucose in our body. This hormone reduces the cellular glucose uptake and utilization. So the amount of glucose in our body is more, and therefore this is hyperglycemic hormone, because it increases the amount of glucose in our body. Now, this beta cell, they release insulin, which is also a peptide hormone. Now this helps or leads to homeostasis of glucose, maintaining the amount of glucose in our body. Now it helps for absorption of glucose by hepatocytes and adipocytes. It does not allow the glucose to remain in the blood, excess amount of glucose in the blood, because it causes more of harm, excessive glucose. So it enhances cellular glucose uptake and utilization. So the utilization of glucose takes place, and there is only less amount of glucose in the blood, only whatever is required by our body. So this excessive amount of glucose, where it goes to the liver. It forms glycogen. So the store of glucose in the glycogen takes place. So it is there as a stock. It is our bank balance of glucose. So whenever we require glucose, this glycogen is broken to release the glucose in the blood. So even when we are fasting, we have energy, we have glucose because of this process. Now, sometimes due to some medical reason, the amount of insulin or the release of insulin does not take place. It leads to diabetes mellitus. So no insulin means the amount of glucose in the blood will be more. So what will happen to this excessive glucose? Urine will release that glucose through the urine, and it will lead to the formation of ketones. Because our body does not have glucose to release energy, it will break the fat cells that will release ketones, which will make our blood acidic. So many problems will be caused by diabetes mellitus. But with insulin therapy, by insulin therapy, this diabetes mellitus can be controlled. Now, testes, it's a male sex organ which is present in the scrotal sacs outside the abdomen. Now, it also carries out the endocrine function. Now, it has got seminiferous tubule, minute tubules, and in between the tubules are present the interstitial tissues. They are also known as Leydig cells or stromal tissues. All are same, but these cells are present and they produce hormones. Now, this are group of hormones which are known as androgen, and especially one of the androgen, that is testosterone. It affects the development, maturation and the functions of the male accessory sex organs like epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, prostate gland, urethra. Now, it also helps to carry out the main function, that is spermatogenesis, production of spermatozoa, that is the sperm. And it also affects the central nervous system, which affects the sexual behavior of the males. Now, in addition to all these functions, it also has anabolic effect on protein and carbohydrate, that is forming protein and carbohydrate. This hormone helps in formation of protein and carbohydrate.